Hi everybody, so what I'm going to do today is do a drawing of this apple by Dan Foy. What I did was a search of Creative Commons images, and that brings up a load of images that you can use on your website or whatever. Always check the licenses, and this one said I had to credit the original photographer, quite right too, so I have put a link to his Flickr page and to this image so that if you want to follow any of the tips or try and draw the same thing yourself, that you can as well. It's kind of like a bit of a shadowy area coming to where this shadow ends. So I'll just draw that in very loosely as well. And then there's like a highlight here which kind of forms like a kind of a smile shape going around. I'm just very, very lightly drawing that in. Kind of that shape highlight coming from the white surface of the table here. And of course we have, it's not quite center, it's just maybe a little bit off center. We have this kind of kidney bean shaped highlight. Which is actually divided up into two sections, maybe even three. The kind of a little spiky bit comes down. So it's not like a perfect kidney shape like that. And then just above that, we have this nice line comes to show where the stalk would have been. And within that, we've got these kind of starburst shapes. And that's the darkest green starburst shape, more or less. Not being totally accurate with this, just to give you an idea. And then another one, you can really see quite a lot of this apple green colour on the far side. But I guess the rest of it is being blocked like in there, so we just see a little hint of it on this side. And then around the very edges, it's pretty dark really. There, and just like in here, it's pretty dark as well. So what I'm going to do is just quickly sketch out these lovely apple skin stripes that it has with my HB pencil. Just, and a little bit like what I was doing in the last video, you can see I'm following the line of the apple. And I tell you, I'm following the line of the apple because the stripes are also following the line of the apple. And you can see one of the stripes goes through this highlight. And nice. Right, so I'm just going to fast forward past this bit. Right, so I've kind of got my apple more or less laid out here. I mean, there's obviously more stripes in there. So I'm going to switch to my softer 6B pencil, and I'm going to start darkening the darkest areas of the apple in first. And they're going to set the tone as to how high the highlight should be, what kind of midtones we should have. If you don't get your darks as dark as they should be, the whole thing is going to look a little bit flat. So you can see now I've started kind of just sketching in quite loosely the darkest areas. So I will just carry on with that because it's going to take quite a while to do. So you'll note here I'm kind of going like that around this little highlight here because you know it's not as bright as this one here, and I'm trying to think if this was photograph was in black and white, it would be much easier to see the tonal value. So I'm kind of leaving a little bit of grey around it. Now here you can see I'm kind of just putting in some more mid-tones, and I may need to darken down the darks even further. Now I've made a little bit of a mess of, you'll see the highlight here goes all the way around to basically where this shadow stops, and I'm after drawing over it. And the problem is if I go to rub it out, that's going to smear everywhere. So I might just leave it for now. I do have an ancient putty rubber, which I might try later, and that might be the trick. Because the problem with these darker pencils, there's so much soft graphite in them that when you go to rub them out, they just smear everywhere. So ideally, you want to be as accurate as possible if you're using those pencils, rather than, you know, always thinking, oh well, I can rub it out with an eraser, because actually you kind of can wreck your drawing by doing that. Now this bit here, the shadow, ignore this bit, I'm going to have to get rid of that. The shadow coming around the edge, it kind of goes a little way around the edge of this. Sorry, I'm covering it up while I'm drawing it. Like that. And then there's like another shadowy edge bit here coming down. And then I'm going to fill it in because it's not completely white highlight. Just filling it in with a very light tone there, and we can't see any of the apple skin or anything coming off that. What I mean is the stripes in the apple skin. So I'm just, might make it a little bit darker maybe. Now you can see here I'm doing kind of little, well, I'm kind of mixing marks like that and little dots like that, because actually if you look up closely you can actually see at this photograph, you can kind of see the texture of the apple skin, which is just slight little tiny subtle bumps on it. So I'm going to indicate that bean shaped shadow by kind of doing slight little dotty movements. Now just around here I've cheated a little bit, as you can see, because I've actually made the tone going into this half apple greeny starburst shape quite dark. I've also kind of made that more of a mid-tone, and I've had to do that really because otherwise this wasn't really showing up anymore, so I had to darken this. and I can't really get much darker around the edges, so I've taken a little bit of artistic license with that. So now I'm just going to fill in the mid-tones of the rest of the apple, maybe darken a bit here and there, and I'm going to be careful to leave this highlight out of the way. And I may need to darken the whole thing overall when I do this. Note how I'm using the side of the pencil like this. I'm keeping the actual whole length of the pencil lead parallel to the page, so that it's kind of giving me this whole length rather than just the tip. It makes it easier for shading. Okay, so I don't like these pencil marks that have kind of come out over the edge of my apple, so I'm just drawing over them, even though it's kind of changing the shape of the apple slightly rather than rubbing them out. And this bit now, I've possibly made this bit down here a little bit too dark, and I've done this in a, you know, quite a loose scribbly style. I mean, I could have drawn in those apple shapes and then drawn them in like that if I'd wanted to, or not drawn them in at all and just gone straight in, you know, and then maybe gone over them with the tone. But anyway, I'm doing this as quickly as possible just for the sake of this demonstration. And I think I'm after going over my nice little highlight that I've been keeping there for so long, and I've managed to draw over it. So the last thing I'm going to do is fill in this shadow underneath, and it kind of starts, I'm using the end of this flat highlight here is where it starts, and it ends around here where I've already marked it. There you have it, a quick enough pencil sketch of an apple. Now, I mean, I could have spent hours doing this and you know, managed to get in every single little detail, but I think it's a fair enough representation. We've got the highlight here, maybe I could do with a little bit more work there. We've got our nice starburst shape, and we've managed to kind of keep our highlights here. The only thing I haven't done really is indicated, while it's obvious that it's sitting on some kind of a white surface, it's not wholly white. So again, I'm just holding the pencil at the far end, kind of parallel with the lead parallel to the page. And actually in this photograph you can see it actually gets darker as we go into the distance. So I'm going to do the same by pressing a bit harder, and I might even go over that again just to, and I'm pressing harder as I'm getting further away, pressing harder, and then pressing lighter as I get up close to give a gradient. So there we are, that is our apple. Until the next time, bye bye and happy drawing.